大家安静啊。
女士们、先生们，
Ladies and
北京论
gentlemen,
坛2020开幕式现
the
在
opening
开
ceremony
始。
of Beijing Forum
有请北
2020 now
京大学
begins.
党委书记、校务委
Let
员
me
会
ask
主任邱水
Mr.
平教
Qiu
授
Shuiping,
主持
Secretary of the
开幕
Party
式。
Committee of Peking University, to chair the open ceremony. Honorable Mr. Han Qide, Mr. Yuan Ping, Mr. Zheng Dengwen, leaders and guests, ladies and gentlemen, teachers and students,
大家早上好。
good morning.
在中国政府
Under the support of the central government, as well as the guidance of the Ministry of Education, Beijing Municipal Government and CPC Beijing Municipal Committee, and with contributions from world-renowned institutions, experts and scholars, Beijing Forum 2020 is now open.
今年北京论坛
Into the 17th successful year, Beijing Forum has established itself as a high-end international platform where the best minds of the world gather to promote mutual learning among civilizations through the exchange of ideas and academic findings. The rich academic experience, extensive international influence, and profound discussions have made it a magnet for top-notch experts across all disciplines. President Xi Jinping has underscored on many occasions that the world is undergoing momentous changes unseen in a century, as globalization is reshaping the world order, social structure, and governance regimes.
面临新的调整和机遇，尤其是
The COVID-19 crisis has added new layers of uncertainty to the world development this year.
在这背景
And
下
the theme, the harmony of civilizations and prosperity for all, globalization under the impact of the pandemic, new challenges and opportunities.
探讨必须
This year's Beijing Forum will explore ways to navigate through the immense uncertainties in a dramatically changing world and contribute wisdom and strength to the reform and development of different countries, to the harmony and progress of the society, and to the common prosperity for us all. Now let me introduce the leaders and distinguished guests attending the opening ceremony at India Overseas Exchange Center today.
第10届第10
Mr. Han Qide, Vice Chairman of the 10th and 11th Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, Vice Chairman of the 12th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, Honorable President of the China Association for Science and Technology, Chairman of Beijing Forum Senior Advisory Council. Mr. Yuan Ping, member of the Standing Committee of the CPPCC National Committee, Vice Chairman of the Commission for Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan and Overseas Chinese, former Executive Deputy Director of the Central Office on Foreign Affairs, former Minister of the State of Council's Office for Overseas Chinese Affairs. Mr. Vice Secretary General of the CPC Beijing Municipal Committee, Mr. Zheng Dengwen. Mr. Hao Ping, President of Peking University.
Now
let's extend our sincere welcome and heartfelt thanks to all the leaders and guests with a big round of applause. Also present at the ceremony are some of the professors and students from Peking University. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier this year, when the COVID-19 pandemic burst onto the scene, medical workers headed for the front line, demonstrating remarkable expertise, devotion, and a great sense of responsibility in fighting the life-saving battle. In his new book, The Temperature of Medical Science, of Mr. Han Qide gives a portrait of the very best of the medical profession. Also, as the chairman of Beijing Forum Senior Advisory Council, Mr. Han has offered consistent support for Beijing Forum and other events of international academic exchanges. Now, let's welcome Mr. Han with a big round of applause. Distinguished guests and scholars, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. With our joint efforts, the 17th Beijing Forum is held as scheduled with a combination of online and offline meetings. Here I would like to extend my congratulations to the opening of the forum and my sincere greetings and best wishes to all the guests and scholars. This year's Beijing Forum is held during a special period. The theme of the forum is globalization under the impact of the pandemic, new challenges and opportunities. It is in line with the current world development and closely follows the issues of common concern of all countries, which has important practical significance. Since the beginning of this year, the COVID-19 pandemic has continued to wreak havoc in countries around the world. After the outbreak of the virus, the Chinese government has prioritized people and their lives and has made the best efforts to protect people's lives and health and minimize the impact of the pandemic to the best of its capability. During the fight against the pandemic in China, the international community has extended a helping hand to China, sent encouraging words to the Chinese people in various ways, and have provided valuable support. We would like to extend our sincere thanks to these people from all over the world. At the same time, we sympathize with the suffering caused by the pandemic to people of all countries, and also send our condolences for those who have lost their lives due to the virus, and express our deep respect to those who are racing against the pandemic and saving lives, as well as express our sincere blessings to those who are infected with the virus and are receiving treatment. The world today is undergoing profound changes unseen in a century. In the face of global threats and challenges, especially the current negative impacts of the pandemic, the global economy continues to be under downward pressure. How to build a community with a shared future for mankind through a more inclusive globalization. In the midst of both magnificent visions and stern challenges, we should work together with the same vision, forming a stronger global response for global governance issues, and promote world peace and development. These are the common issues of the times for mankind. Earlier, the fifth plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee outlined a comprehensive plan for the development of China during the 14th five-year plan period, proposing to have high-level opening up to the outside world and create new prospects for win-win cooperation accelerate the building of a new development pattern of domestic circulation as the main body and international circulation as indispensable additional inputs and extension, both promoting each other. China is the world's largest and most potential market. In the process of building a new development pattern, the market scale and capacity of China will continue to expand, thereby creating more possibilities for countries around the world to enter the Chinese market and share opportunities of China. It is the sincere hope of China to work with countries around the world to make globalization more open, inclusive, balanced, and beneficial for all. This way, different countries and people of different classes will be able to share the benefits and opportunities. Experts and scholars from different countries and regions gather together today to contribute ideas and insights to the future development of globalization. This fully demonstrates that it is our shared hope to promote the harmony and common prosperity of civilizations. We must communicate with each other with trust and sincerity to build a close bond of international exchanges. At this critical moment of the joint fight against the pandemic, different countries have helped each other, which has shown that the virus knows no borders and the world shares a common destiny. Solidarity and cooperation are the inevitable choices to deal with the challenges. Facing the future, we believe that as long as we express sincerity and respect for different civilizations, respect each other's cultural differences, and promote mutual understanding, mutual tolerance, and equal interaction between different cultures, we will certainly reduce prejudice and misunderstanding and bridge differences and gaps. In this way, we aim to enhance mutual trust and friendship and better promote cooperation and development. We need education to take a leading role, strengthen exchanges, and give full play to the mission of institutions of higher learning. The university is the beacon of human civilization and an important bridge and tie for global cooperation in various industries and fields. Since the outbreak of the virus, Chinese universities have actively sought innovation in communication means. For example, Peking University and the University of Michigan Medical School held a video conference about the pandemic and donated medical supplies to Cambridge University, Guy's Hospital, St. Thomas Hospital, and University of Michigan Hospital, translated the most authoritative COVID-19 prevention, control, and treatment publications in China. We have worked with multiple well-known universities and institutions to jointly establish the Global Alliance of Top Experts to Combat COVID-19 and actively promoted cooperation in global public health. The role of universities has been highlighted in full scale during the pandemic. It is hoped that universities from various countries can further promote cultural mutual learning, conduct more major scientific programs, carry out high-level scientific joint research, and commit to solving common problems the world faces. We must face the future, lay a solid foundation, and cultivate the profound friendship of the younger generation. The future belongs to young people. Young people all over the world have ideals and responsibilities. If the young generations of all countries have deep friendships, human society will have a bright future. The noble cause of promoting peace and development of mankind will continue to be powerful. We must take a long-term perspective to promote the growth of young people. Proactively use new technologies, create new platforms, and establish new mechanisms to promote young people from all over the world to overcome the obstacles of time and space. Communicate sincerely and form a consensus on peace, development, equality, and shared benefits. Pursue and realize the grand vision of cooperative development and common progress for mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, where the world is heading in the future, what new opportunities and challenges the new globalization will face, all these pose tests to our abilities and also present the fundamental issues of the times to experts and scholars. I sincerely hope that the Beijing Forum 2020 can focus on global development and seek means of win-win cooperation and mutual learning among civilizations from multiple perspectives and fields, sowing seeds for the future, making efforts for tomorrow, and building a more prosperous and beautiful world with our wisdom. I sincerely wish the Beijing Forum 2020 a complete success. I wish you good health
身体健康
and all the
万事
best.
如意。谢谢大家。
Thank you.
谢谢韩主席。
Thank you, Mr. Han.
女士们、先生们，
Ladies and gentlemen, Beijing Forum has long enjoyed
大力支持。
support of the United Nations Secretary General Annan and Secretary General Ban Ki-moon have sent several congratulatory letters and video messages in support of Beijing Forum. Today, Secretary General Antonio Guterres
发了视频
has also sent a video address to the forum. Please watch the video.
It is a pleasure to greet the Beijing Forum. You gather virtually this year as COVID-19 continues to upend our world. The United Nations is working to save lives, control transmission of the virus, and ease the fallout. We are advocating a massive rescue package for the world's most vulnerable people and countries, and for a people's vaccine available to everyone, everywhere. And we are pressing for a global ceasefire and fighting misinformation. We must also learn the lessons of the crisis. Even before the pandemic, inequalities were rising and divisions were widening. The pandemic must be a wake-up call for these ills too. That means getting on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. China has been a leader in this work, aligning its national programs with the targets and lifting 850 million people out of poverty, the greatest anti-poverty accomplishment in history. And it means accelerating climate action. I welcome China's pledge to reach a peak of carbon dioxide emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. From health to the economy to the climate and beyond, we are facing the biggest set of global challenges in generations. The decisions we make in the coming months will shape the lives of generations to come. International cooperation will be essential. In that spirit, please accept my best wishes for a fruitful forum. Thank you.
好，谢谢古特雷斯秘书长。
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General.
女士们、先生们，
Ladies and
今
gentlemen,
年的新冠疫情
the disruption and uncertainty from the COVID-19 pandemic have also pervaded the higher education system. At this critical moment, Peking University is taking tangible actions to deliver its commitment of serving the country through higher education and academic activities. In a time of crisis, in particular, to build an open and inclusive international academic community is important. Now, as a window for the opening up of China's education, Peking University has already exchanged with more than 380 leading universities and research institutions in more than 60 countries and regions. To Peking University's Going Global efforts, Peking Forum has contributed much. Now let's give the floor to Professor Hao Ping, President of Peking University. Distinguished Vice Chairman Han Qi-de and Mr. Zheng Dengwen and Ms. Qiu Shuiping, distinguished guests and scholars, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. Thanks to the support of leaders, guests and scholars, 17 years have witnessed the involvement of the Peking Forum. And in the past 10 years, we have altogether had 148 sub-plenary sessions and more than 1,500 panel discussions with more than 6,000 scholars and experts. We also have the students' panels. Our influence covered more than 80 countries and regions, serving as a think tank with great achievement in the dialogues among civilizations. In November last year, our guests traveled from all over the world to meet in Beijing during the most beautiful autumn season in the Yanyuan Garden. Today, we still manage to meet each other online. And this session is both online and offline. The COVID-19 pandemic this year has caught mankind by surprise. It was a major public health emergency that is unprecedented in a century and has a major impact on the development of human history. President Xi Jinping once stated that no country can stay intact in the face of major crises, and we can only choose to cooperate to deal with the challenges. The unexpected crisis has made us realize that all countries are a community with a shared future. In the face of this severe public health emergency, universities have fulfilled their mission, shouldered its responsibilities, and played an indispensable role. Since this year, Peking University has dispatched altogether 454 medical workers, the largest medical team since the establishment of the university, to assist Hubei Wuhan. And also, we have put forward more than 300 research recommendations to fight the pandemic. In terms of quick and precise testing of the virus, prevention and control of the pandemic using big data, high-efficacy drug against the virus. Also, thousands of medical students from Peking University have been on the forefront of collecting statistics on the epidemiology, contributing a lot to the fighting against the pandemic. In a spring semester, more than 3,500 teachers at Peking University provided more than 6,400 online courses. In a fall semester, the combination of online and offline teaching models continue to ensure that Chinese and international students can receive quality education during the pandemic. We also introduced China's epidemiology prevention and control measures and achievements via the cloud classroom. The pandemic has exerted a profound impact on all walks of life around the world, and it has also brought many new challenges to education, leading to revolution on education models. Online courses is getting more and more important in students' daily lives. Facing the new changes brought about by the pandemic, universities must adhere to the laws of education and have the courage to reform and innovate in order to effectively respond to the pandemic and actively lead social progress. Here, I would like to share some personal thoughts. First, universities must promote the humanistic spirit and fulfill their mission of education of people. The ones who govern the world are talents, and education is crucial for cultivating talents. Emphasizing human values and shaping human souls is the consensus of human civilization and the essence of education. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, medical workers, scientific researchers, and community workers all over the world have been fighting around the clock on the forefront of the pandemic, overcoming hardships with selfless dedication. They also have showed the best of human nature with their courage and perseverance, and they are vivid examples of what kind of people we expect to foster in education and how to cultivate them. Facing the ever-changing world, universities must adhere to the mission of educating people, cultivating talents, with comprehensive development of morality, intelligence, physical health, and art sense. Second, universities must persist in innovation and give full play to the power of science and technology. In the fight against the pandemic, the role of science and technology has become more obvious. As an important source of scientific and technological innovation, universities must always adhere to scientific spirit, closely integrate scientific and technology research with the future and destiny of mankind. At present, scientific and technological innovation involves different disciplines and countries. Universities must firmly grasp this innovation trend, play a pivotal role, promote the integration of different disciplines, and promote the cooperation of scientists from all over the world to create new knowledge theories and technologies that can lead the future in the process of communication and integration. Third, universities should be more open, inclusive, and strengthen international cooperation. The COVID-19 pandemic has imposed great obstacles to the international exchanges of universities. But the exchanges and cooperation between universities in various countries have not been stalled. They have made full use of new technologies and platforms to strike new cooperation models and mechanisms in the fields of pandemic control, scientific research, and talent training. As an important bridge for people-to-people exchanges and scientific research cooperation, universities should establish awareness of the world and international visions, form an international academic community with a more open and inclusive attitude, deepen mutual trust, jointly build and share benefits, as well as establish more solid ties among different countries and regions through exchanges between science and culture, thus providing an very important source of power for improving the global governance system. Fourth, universities must seek development in view of future and reform the education model. From a long-term perspective, the impact of the pandemic on universities is not only transient, but also it will reshape the mission, responsibilities, pattern, and model of higher education and internationalize them into the new genes of universities. For example, the pandemic has greatly promoted the use of IT technology in education based on big data to revolutionize our teaching models. And also, we need to use information technology to update education concepts, reform education models, carry out in-depth exploration and practice in a promotion of mixed model of teaching and innovative talent training systems. In the face of the pandemic, we have used all kinds of technologies and expanded the boundaries of the campus, making university a more open-source platform. Talking about universities in the future, I believe universities in the future will be more open and inclusive, with smarter teaching models. Education in the future will be more focused on high quality and more inclusive. We must grasp this new change, spread science, technology, thought, and culture to the society, integrate higher education and social development, and shoulder greater responsibilities. Distinguished guests and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, teaching faculties and students, this pandemic has brought huge disaster in world history, but we firmly believe that the pandemic not only brings challenges, but also hone the national capabilities of a strong country. For a united world, the pandemic brings both risks and spiritual strength. For 17 years since its inception, the Beijing Forum has been advocating exchanges and mutual learning among civilizations and promoting harmonious dialogues and friendly exchanges among different civilizations with the overarching theme of the harmony of civilizations and prosperity for all, among which all the topics that we have discussed has full vision and also focused on the spirit of humanity. In the future, we are going to continue disseminating the knowledge and information about China. I do believe that with concerted effort, we will emerge from this crisis even stronger and build our home earth as a more beautiful community. To conclude, I wish this forum a complete success. Thank you. Thank you, President Hao Ping. Co-hosted co-hosted by Beijing Municipal Commission and Education and Peking University under the sponsorship of KFAS and Che Institute for Advanced Studies since 2004. Beijing Forum has received support from Beijing Municipal Government and CPC Beijing Municipal Committee. Now let's give the floor to Mr. Zheng Dengwen, Vice Secretary General of the CPC Beijing Municipal Committee, to give us a speech. Distinguished Vice Chairman Han Qide, distinguished Mr. Chu Yunping and President Hao Ping, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Entrusted by Mr. Wang Ning, it's a great pleasure for me to be here in this beautiful Yanyuan Garden to attend this year's 2020 Beijing Forum, both online and offline. As the COVID-19 pandemic still ravages the world and the international landscape goes through a period of profound adjustment, we are meeting online and offline to discuss the future development of globalization. This is of great significance for building a community with a shared future for mankind and promoting the harmony of civilizations. First of all, on behalf of the CPC Beijing Municipal Committee, I'd like to extend my warmest congratulations on the opening of the forum. Many guests are not able to come here to be with us due to the pandemic. However, the physical distance would never stop our desire for interconnection, but highlights the necessity and value of unity and cooperation among all countries in the world. This also echoes with the theme, the harmony of civilizations and prosperity for all, a concept that is aimed at promoting cross-cultural communication and dialogues, seeking win-win cooperation and mutual learning among countries from multiple perspectives. Through more than a decade of development, Beijing Forum has become an intellectual powerhouse for the city of Beijing, contributing remarkably to its cultural advance, higher education and international exchanges and cooperation. To build itself into a center for international exchange, Beijing has held many international conferences, engaged in friendship city exchanges, and facilitated international transportation in recent years, and achieved fruitful results. Further strengthening Beijing's functions as a center for international exchange will not only improve its level of internationalization, but also facilitate China's participation in global governance and encourage the international community to positively grasp and interpret the role that China plays. In the future, Beijing will participate in international exchanges with a more open and inclusive manner, deeply integrate with the world. To build a center for international exchange requires an open and inclusive mindset and constant improvement of a city's inclusive performance. One of the hallmarks of a center for international exchange is the large number of international institutions, such as diplomatic institutions, international organizations, and international commercial institutions. Beijing plays host to 134 foreign embassies and consulates in China and has established friendly ties with 96 cities in 76 countries. Beijing is also home to the headquarters of international organizations such as AIIB, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Beijing is accommodating the greatest number of Fortune Global 500 headquarters enterprises. In the future, Beijing hopes to remain focused on attracting international organizations and multinational enterprises and building itself into an international hub for technology transfer. It will deeply integrate into the networks of international exchanges and global innovation, step up efforts in building bases for international scientific cooperation, promote international joint research and sharing of scientific research facilities. To build a center for international exchange requires not only respecting the laws and drawing on international experience, but also maintaining cultural confidence. Culture is the bloodline of a nation and the spiritual home of the people. Over thousands of years, Beijing has preserved profound cultural heritage. Thus, in the process of building the Center for International Exchange, Beijing will draw on the international experience while highlighting the features of the times, the Chinese characteristics, and its own traits as the capital city. Relying on its institutional, functional, social, innovative, ecological, and cultural advantages, Beijing is geared up to lead the trend of world cities development and promote the process of global civilization and take the initiative to shoulder the responsibilities of carrying out the outstanding culture of the Chinese nation. To build a center for international exchange requires increasing Beijing's influence in international education, building itself into a main destination for international students. To a city, the number of international students is not only an important indicator for its level of internationalization, but also a major source of international talent reserve for urban construction. Beijing is home to a great number of high-quality universities, and the world rankings and international influence of these universities have been rising rapidly. Committed to becoming a popular destination for international students, Beijing has launched more taught in English programs up to international standards and hired top-notch international facilities with a view to training and attracting more international talents. To date, Beijing has built 8 international talent communities, including Chaoyang Wangjing International Talent Community, Zhongguancun Science City, Future Science City, Shijingshan International Talent Community, Tongzhou, Shunyi, and Huairou Science City, and Beijing Economic Technology Development Area, in the hope of attracting more highly trained international professionals. Generation after generation, Beijing has been creating and building its wealth of culture. Year after year, one topic at a time, Beijing Forum has been building up its international influence. Building on Beijing's cultural heritage, Beijing Forum serves as a bridge of cultural exchange and promotes communication and cooperation between Chinese and foreign civilizations. The forum is a reflection of Beijing's open mind. The CBC Beijing Municipal Committee and the Beijing Municipal Government attach great importance to the development of Beijing Forum and appreciate the significant contributions from Peking University and scholars at home and abroad. President Xi Jinping pointed out, mankind is a community with a shared future. In the face of major crisis, no one is an island. Cooperation is solidarity. It's the only way for mankind to overcome the crisis. The ravaging pandemic has highlighted the necessity and urgency for all countries in the world to bond together and share weal and woe. Just as the theme of this forum goes, we need to have faith. Peace and development remain the overriding theme of the times as human society advances. Crises and challenges often prompt the emergence of new opportunities. Let's work together to deepen exchanges, communicate in sincerity, cooperate in solidarity. Finally, I wish this forum a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zheng. Ladies and gentlemen, Beijing Forum has always received great attention and strong support from people of all walks of life. However, some of our international and domestic guests cannot make it to the opening ceremony today due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They have sent video speeches, including Mr. Chai Tai-Wang, chairman of the SK Group, one of the co-hosts of Beijing Forum, member of Beijing Forum Senior Advisory Council, Mr. Klaus Schwab, founder of World Economic Forum, and Mr. Fukuda Yasuo, former Prime Minister of Japan. Now let's watch the video speeches from international guests.
Distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to 2020, the virtual Beijing Forum. I would like to thank Peking University and the Chase Institute for Advanced Studies for bringing us together during this difficult time. This year's Beijing Forum invites us to explore the theme, the new challenges and opportunities of globalization. One of the biggest challenges that we are facing today is our environment, which has been permanently altered by destructive human behaviors. We have overutilized our dominant influence over the environment, taking nature for granted. In a way, the current pandemic seems to be the karma or unfortunate outcome of human activities. This challenge requires a comprehensive global response. Fortunately, the international collaboration has been active in many ways. With the UN SDG programs at the helm, the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, and the private sector's participation in ESG has all been mobilized to address our common environmental and social problems. China's recently effective control and the management of the spread of the COVID-19 within its borders is now providing an opportunity for global collaboration of the pandemic, the prevention measure. Despite such effort, however, many environmental and social problems still remaining unsolved. The greenhouse gas, waste, and ocean plastic damage are increasing daily. With the added the challenges posed by the pandemic, we are now facing not only discomfort, but a threat to the human survival. But perhaps this is all due to humanity's uncontrolled greed and selfishness and apathy. Now we are forced to find a new system or a method that can ultimately control and transform our behavior. But the question is, how? Different professions and sectors will have the different focuses and lenses in addressing this question. As a corporate person, let me share with you the three key factors that I believe can change human behavior: the corporate strategy, the regulatory system, and the human heart. The first, the corporate strategy. The corporations must fundamentally shift the way they conduct business by integrating ESG or environmental, social, and governance factors. Gone are the days when companies only had to focus on maximizing tangible and measurable economic value. Eco-friendly business practice, the social value creation, and trust-earning governance are now imperatives for survival. In reality, today's investment standard is already forcing changes in corporate behavior. Today's stakeholders and investors to fully understand that companies' ESG performance has an ultimate impact to long-term success. And corporations are beginning to view the ESG initiatives from the perspective of corporate or the financial strategy to clearly align with today's new market demands. In return, the corporations receives an assessment of its true market or the company value based on its viable financial story. Furthermore, a steady improvement of the measurement methodologies is changing the corporate behavior, while there is still much work to do. SK Group joined forces with the global partners such as BASF, Deutsche Bank, and novartis to collaborate on the value balancing alliance. In China, we are partnering with CSEC, the state-owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission, to build the common social value model and set up the industry-wide accounting or the measurement standard. As we expand our measurement standard across the industry and the countries, I'm confident that more companies will join our alliance to accept these standards. In the near future, our alliance can also create new methodologies to measure all aspects of ESG. Second, regulatory system. We must not only agree to the measure ESG, but also compensate for the value that the corporations are creating through ESG practices. For example, 5 years ago, the SK established the Social Progress Credit, or SPC, initiative to create an ecosystem that enhanced social value generation. The idea was to give a tradable monetary value to the social good created by social enterprises. The goal of the experiment was to provide incentives to social enterprises to create more social value. Likewise, the SPC concept can be applied to a wide array of public and private organizations to measure and compensate and thereby incentivize environmental, social, and governance factors. For example, the Environmental Progress Credit can provide a tradable monetary value to the eco-friendly value generated by the companies. With our initial success in SPC, we can look forward to a self-sustaining ESG mechanism where ESG initiate value that can be traded among the investors and the credit can be priced by the market. Finally, the human heart. Based on our experience and observation, we cannot simply rely on measurement and compensation alone. Without a true voluntary and willing, the human spirit, rules and regulations will simply become a burden to meet the numbers in our financial statements. So, how can we become truly motivated to voluntarily and willingly? My word is empathy. I believe we need to find a way to increase the level of our empathy, or 同理心 in Chinese. It means our ability to understand and share the feelings of others, feelings of those who are impacted by COVID-19, by the environmental damage, or by human apathy and hatred. This is not easy. All too often, we are driven by individual or the corporate or national self-interest. So, how can I raise the level of my inner conscience to embrace the interest of others as my own? True to any discipline, that perhaps we have to train or incentivize ourselves to learn about empathy. This year's Beijing Forum could not be more ideal for putting the word empathy on our discussion table. To this end, academic institutions companies and the governments can collectively develop the programs and seminars to explore the deeper meaning of empathy. I must confess my limitation in translating my thought into one perfect word or expression that everyone can agree upon. So please allow me to borrow from the old Chinese wisdom, 将心比心, 推己及良. In other words, treat others the way you want to be treated. I hope the Beijing Forum can continue to guide and enlighten us. This is our true opportunity. 谢谢。
Distinguished participants of the Beijing Forum, you seem this year the harmony of civilizations and prosperity for all, new challenges and opportunities for globalization resonate very deeply with myself. Let me share with you 8 thoughts which are relevant in this respect. Relevant for the world as a whole, and of course relevant for the work of the World Economic Forum. First, we deeply believe in the power of the collaborative efforts of all stakeholders of global societies. Of course, governments have a leading role, but if we want to address the global challenges, we need to engage business, civil society, the young generation, but we need to integrate particularly universities, because universities should have new ideas, new concepts, and in such a way can substantially contribute to the progress of society. My second thought is related to take care and cultivate all our resources. It's not just the physical capital which is essential for our long-term well-being. No, we have to take care and we have to cultivate also our natural capital, our environmental capital, our human capital, and our social capital. So we need a new enlightened definition of what is called capitalism, integrating all those different factors. And we also have to be able to measure performance on the basis not only of physical and financial success, but also on the basis of what we contribute to the advancement of society and taking care of the planet. My third consideration relates to the fact that we have to put much more emphasis on the long-term aspects and not, as we do now to a large extent, to the short-term situation. Of course, the pandemic has forced us to think, if I may say so, just around the corner. But it is very essential if we want to grow as a society, not just economically, we have to develop again long-term perspectives. I'm very happy that China, with its 14th five-year plan, has established lighthouses which guide the Chinese people into the future. Now, the fourth consideration is that we have to make much more advantage of the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. I'm thinking here of artificial intelligence, I'm thinking of the Internet of Things, of the new capabilities we have with genetic engineering, and I could go on and on. Those technologies have been very much advanced by the pandemic. We know that many of the world's problems can only be solved if we apply new technologies. And I'm happy to see China putting high importance on developing its fourth industrial revolution capabilities. My fifth consideration relates to our global togetherness. The pandemic has again shown us that we are interdependent. As President Xi has expressed in Davos in 2017, when he joined us at the annual meeting, we are all part of the same global humanity. So, even if we have conflicts, even if we are sometimes competitors, but at the end, it's our global togetherness which should be the most important objective in whatever we do to maintain and to strengthen this global togetherness. And that's what the World Economic Forum stands for. My sixth consideration relates to the theme also of this Beijing Forum, which means building harmony. I'm very impressed by the Confucian notion of her. I think we have to find again an equilibrium in our world. We have to go away from the polarization which we see now everywhere. And in order to do so, I think the most important building stones are truth and trust. And again, a great task for the universities to look for the truth of the matters. And only if we have an organization, a nation and a global world which is built on truth, we can really establish and re-establish trust again. My seventh point is that we have to believe in the principle of human beings being virtuous, being benevolent, because only if we rely on this positive nature of humankind, we can mobilize all the energy which we need to construct a positive future. Again, here, there is a Chinese word which characterizes this philosophy, and I think it's called Junzi. My last point is that we have now a window of opportunity. We are coming out, thanks also to the leadership of China in terms of fighting the pandemic, in terms of reinvigorating its economy. We have now a window of opportunity to create this global reset which we all need. This global reset is necessary because we have seen that our policies which we pursued before the coronavirus struck us, that those policies do not create the necessary inclusion of society necessary for harmonious societal development. And they do not create the sustainability of what we are doing. Just think of the global warming, how fast it is developing in the opposite, into the negative direction. I'm very happy in this respect about the latest commitment of China, of President Xi Jinping, to be carbon neutral by 2060. So, we have a great opportunity at this moment, like we had after World War II, to have in some way a new beginning in our global cooperation, in globalization, in managing our global affairs. I hope that we will not miss this opportunity, and I wish you all a very successful conference.
最初に新型コロナウイルスによりお亡くなりになられた皆様、全世界の皆様に心から追悼を申し上げます。同時にご遺族の皆様方に対し心からのお悔やみを申し上げます。そして現在新型コロナウイルスと戦っておられるすべての方々に対して心からのお見舞いを申し上げ、激励の意を表したいと思います。このパンデミックが一刻も早く収束し、人々の生活が日常に戻り、全世界が新たな歩みを始めることができることを願っております。で、そのような困難な中にあって、北京フォーラム2020の開催にこぎつけられた関係者の皆様のご尽力に対し、敬意を申し上げたいと思います。ポストコロナの世界のあるべき姿について、国際社会が真剣な議論をすべき、まさにその時に世界の有識者が集い、北京フォーラム2020が開催されることは大変時宜を得たものと思います。今回のフォーラムは文明の調和と共同発展、グローバリゼーションの新たな挑戦と新たな機会をテーマとしております。私も世界が大きな転換期にあるからこそ、文明と文化を真正面から捉え、新たな世界像を構想することがとても大事になってきたと考えております。経済のグローバリゼーションは確かに世界経済の発展のために大きな貢献を果たしました。経済のグローバリゼーションはこれなくして今日の世界の豊かさも繁栄もなかったことでしょう。しかしその結果、国内の経済格差が拡大し、豊かな国と貧しい国との格差も拡大したという批判もあります。それでも経済のグローバリゼーションのおかげで世界経済全体の底上げが実現し、途上国にとっては発展の機会となったことは紛れもない事実であります。格差の問題は比較的豊かな国にあっては国内政策であり、また貧しい国々に対しては国際社会の支援を通じて解決していくべきであり、グローバリゼーションの否定になっているわけではありません。しかし、経済のグローバリゼーションが痛みを伴うこともまた紛れもない事実であります。それは近代化のプロセスと重なっているのです。イギリスで始まった産業革命が農村を破壊し、悲惨な労働者たちを生み出し、同じことは近代化を始めた全ての国で起こっております。アメリカにおいては大規模生産方式が始まり、工場労働者が機械の一部となることの悲喜劇はチャップリンのモダンタイムズがよく描写しております。これらは主として欧米社会で起こりましたが、経済のグローバリゼーションは痛みを全世界に巻きしだしたのであります。同様のことは日本でも起こりました。日本は1868年の明治維新以降、グローバリゼーションの大波に飲み込まれました。伝統文化に支えられてきた伝統社会は大きく破壊されました。進歩の代償かもしれませんが、日本社会が大きな精神的痛みを抱えながら前進を遂げてきたのであります。それでも日本的なものは残りました。それは外からの刺激を受けてさらに発展した形になります。本年は明治維新から152年になります。改善運動に代表される日本の製造業のやり方が世界に影響を与え、アニメーションに代表される日本の文化も世界の文化に影響を与えております。文明と文化、これは衝突するのではなく、 お互いに影響し合いながら自然な形でより高い文明と文化に昇華していくのです。この影響し合うプロセスをより穏やかで豊かな痛みの少ないものにするということを経済のグローバリゼーションを進めていく過程の中でぜひ考えていただきたいのです。すべてをより人間的に人に優しいものにするというのは時代の要求でもあります。平和で穏やかな文明と文化の交流は国民と国民の気持ちを通わせます。相手を理解できるようにするのです。国民同士の相互理解が進み、相手への尊敬の気持ちが生まれれば、そこに平和を求めるという気持ちが強まります。そういう文明と文化の交流は、国と国とをつなぐ平和の橋であり、平和の基本なのであります。今回のフォーラムが世界の将来に対し、積極的に貢献されることを確信し、中国式でありますけれども、フォーラムのご成功を祈り、あらかじめお祝い申し上げます。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Mr. Choi Tae-won, Mr. Schwab, and Mr. Fukuda Yasuo for your great support for Beijing Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for Peking University to host this grand event, and I'm sure that we all find it hugely rewarding to hear the enlightening speeches and remarks from the leaders, experts, and scholars. Mr. Schwab mentioned restart and globalization and his ideas about global economy. They inspire us on how to build a harmonious world and promote shared progress of human civilizations and sustainable development, a goal that is still a long way off. Therefore, people of the world must work together on this. The academic community must contribute and dedicate more to this. We believe that with concerted efforts, we will have a more promising future for the harmony of civilizations and prosperity for all. Now, the opening ceremony of Beijing Forum has come to an end. Next, we will hear a special keynote speech. I'd like to hand over to Professor Qian Chengdan, President of the Institute of Area Studies, to moderate the next session. Please, Professor Qian. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's our honor to chair the next session. We all know the year 2020 is extraordinary. The winds of change are sweeping across the globe, bringing shifts unprecedented in a century. COVID-19 has affected all corners of the world. This year, under the theme of globalization, under the impact of the pandemic, new challenges and opportunities, Beijing Forum will envisage the developments of globalization in a pandemic-hit world and explore a way out of the instabilities and uncertainties of the future while avoiding the pitfalls of isolation, confrontation, and zero-sum thinking. We are very honored to have Ms. Qiu Yuanping here today. She's a member of the Standing Committee of the CPPCC National Committee, Vice Chairman of the Commission for Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and Overseas Chinese, former Executive Deputy Director of the Central Office on Foreign Affairs, and former Minister of the State Council's Office for Overseas Chinese Affairs. With 40 years of experience in diplomacy and foreign affairs, Ms. Zhou has great insight into global landscape, international governance, and the Chinese path, as well as profound knowledge in international strategies, China's diplomacy, and international security issues. Now, let's welcome Ms. Zhou for her special keynote speech. She will be talking about the logic of times of globalization and China. Distinguished guests, dear friends, teachers and students, thank you for inviting me to Beijing Forum 2020. The theme of the forum is globalization under the impact of the pandemic, new challenges and opportunities. In the 21st century, the world has witnessed 9/11 terrorist attack, international financial crisis, climate change, SARS, and COVID-19, among other major global security crises. They come in waves with growing intensity, continuously challenging the will of the international community to jointly deal with crisis and even testing human capability to meet the challenges. The COVID-19, as once-in-a-century public health crisis, is unprecedented in its impact and influence on the world. Even most developed countries are found vulnerable in front of the virus. In world history, technology and economic development promote the progress of human society. Wars and major crises change the process of international politics. The succession of major global crises and the resulting profound shifts in global landscape and international system are repeated reminders that the world is not only in the grip of a once-in-a-century transformation, it has also entered the globalization age. Let me share my humble thoughts and call your attention to the complicated shifts in international situation and the underlying changes of times. The issue of times is a major theoretical issue in philosophy and social sciences. It is also a major practical issue in the history of the development of human society. Setting theoretical issues aside, in a practical sense, to get and grasp the basic features of the times, as well as the specific and differentiating marks of the times, are a prerequisite for us to ride historical trends and promote social progress. People may have different standards and different dimensions when defining and narrating on their times. Against the large background of peace and development in the post-Cold War world, we need to pay special attention to the periodic shifts in the relationship between productivity and production relations, as well as the suprastructure and economic foundation worldwide, and reveal the features of the times with systemic influence and definitive impact, and seize opportunities and challenges brought by the shifts of times. The development of human society is a unifying process of big historical ages and periodic evolutions. We can't get stuck on big concepts of the times that may last for centuries or even for eternity. First, with such a grand topic, historians, economists, and sociologists have their own narratives. Now, I'd like to pick the perspective of international relations to have a humble discussion on the issue of globalization, times, as well as the right logic of the times for China and the world in future development. The core element of any times is survival and development. The differentiator of globalization age from other ages is to see the world as a whole that unfolds around the peaceful coexistence and common development of the entire human race. The discovery of America by Columbus is an epic incident in the worldwide extension of geographical world, global economic integration and highly informatization of society have made today's world as a closely knitted and inseparable whole of today's world. Globalization as a new era is still having its basic features evolving. Some are yet to reach their critical mass. Such evolution in minor degrees at a time do not change its basic elements and orientation. The times of the development and change of the times have law about survival and development. It demands changes in people's approaches and strategies. Some of them are even revolutionary. Otherwise, they will find it difficult to adapt to, harness, and influence the new era. It's the case with the world. It's also the case with China. Currently, the periodic features and evolutionary orientations of the globalization era has the following 6 aspects. First, at the economic level, economic integration has reached quite an advanced stage worldwide, and globalization has become a key trend of global economic and social development.
Economic development is the most fundamental driving forces for human progress, and economic globalization and integration is also the fundamental driving forces for the post-Cold War international political landscape. In the past 100 years, there were 3 waves in terms of the technological progress, represented by steam technology. The first technology revolution promoted us from agrarian civilization to industrial civilization, represented by electricity technology. The second revolution has pushed forward the form of the capitalist international economic system, represented by the IT communication technologies. Most countries were involved in the economic globalization. Thus, we have established a global unified market with the global industrial chain, supply chain, capital chain, logistics chain, and its circulation. Currently, we have the 4th technological revolution represented by digital technology. Against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen the fast progress of digital technology, cloud economy, non-contact services, 5G, artificial intelligence, gene technology, quantum science, and other innovations. So we actually are in a process of fast forward to a more digitalized economy, undergoing profound changes in the production and lives of all human beings. In the past few centuries, from the perspective of history, actually, not all members in the international community have shared the fruits of development in a fair manner. And currently, we have seen the collapse of the international system of labor distribution dominated by developed countries, and those developing countries and former colonies have used their own comparative advantages to participate in the economic globalization and integration. So the interests of the developed countries have been weakened to some extent. And of course, we have to admit that economic globalization have its shortcomings, with all kinds of challenges and conflicts If we cannot address these challenges and conflicts in a proper manner, we will suffer greatly from the results. We have to point out that what we have been seeing, such as the lack of balance, lack of order, even some crisis situations, are the result of the unbalanced development of globalization. And deglobalization, protectionism, isolationism, and withdrawal from international organizations and international agreements and practices might cause us damages and even a stop of the human progress. However, it will not change the fundamental situation that economic globalization and free trade and regional integration have already become the mainstream and general trend of the world development, whether you like it or not. Second, in terms of the social development, all countries are more and more interwoven and interdependent with each other. We now have the global village, and we have to collaborate with each other to follow the general trend of the economic globalization using digital economy, big data, international trade, mass communication, remote communications, and other technologies to move forward in the process of global integration. Economic globalization has already permeated into all walks of life. Well, actually, we have seen several plagues in human history, and this COVID-19 pandemic have been ravaging the whole world in the short time span of only a few months. As long as there is one confirmed case in one country, no country on this planet can emerge from this crisis. And this public health crisis has already showcased that we are now having this international community with a shared future. All countries are interconnected, and the world development and the world village have already become a mainstream in our times. We have to share the fruits and also the bad results together as a community with a shared future. And in the future, I do believe this COVID-19 pandemic will not be the last. We will have more common global challenges. So we need to stand up to these challenges together. In a world of both integration and marginalization, on one hand, we have seen the fast progress of industrialization, modernization, and technology development. On the other hand, we also see the lack of services in terms of healthcare, education, hospitals, and also poverty. We are still bothered by those fundamental problems as human species. As we enjoy the fruits of development of globalization, we are also perplexed about our future. Third, from the political perspective, there have been profound changes in the international power structures and landscape. In recent times, we have seen the dominance of European and American big powers in the international landscape. Entering the 21st century, we have already shifted from the unilateral hegemony to multilateralism with the emerging powers of developing countries and other emerging economies. And we have already seen a more balanced development in the South and North. And in this process, we have seen the meaning and significance of globalization, because the benefits are no longer dominated by developed countries. We need to collaborate as interdependent members of the international communities so as to address the global challenges. We are also faced with threats of military powers. That's why more and more countries are addressing all these international relationships based on their own national interests and rights, instead of following the general trend and mainstream of our times. At the same time, we have seen a more diversified international power structure and landscape. We have seen more and more regional organizations and also regional cooperation mechanisms, as well as more free trade agreements. So the old allies have been more and more outdated, with the participation of international organizations, cross-national enterprises, and social media, as well as non-governmental organizations, more obvious. It is fair to say that on the international stage, we have seen more and more players, and these players are more democratic and diversified. There is no longer a time of a single country dominating the whole world with power politics and hegemony. This is already outdated, and currently we have more options in the world in addressing international relationships. So against this backdrop, we can no longer address these international relationships only based on the rights and interests as well as needs of the big powers. We need to understand the current situation of the world development with a more diversified and multipolar perspective, so that we can more objectively understand the international landscape and its nature, instead of falling into the pitfalls of the old ideology. Fourth, from the perspective of security, we're now seeing more and more global challenges. In terms of globalization, even the most conventional and traditional security issues are going to impact all countries on the planet. We need to address all these issues with a globalized perspective. We have seen that there are still security problems such as territorial sovereignty and maritime disputes. All these issues and disputes are going to become conflict and disputes and hotspot issues in the world. And also on the regional level, we can still see some regional hotspot issues: military allies, confrontation, cold wars, and direct confrontation, as well as other old institutions and mechanisms. At the same time, all countries are faced with non-conventional security issues, and these are becoming more and more the core issues for all countries. The several world-level crises in the 21st century touches upon the issues of weapons of mass destruction, public health, and international financial security, coupled with climate change, terrorism, natural disasters, cross-border crimes, increase of population, and outer space strategy, as well as food security. We are faced with a series of global challenges in a non-conventional way. And also, we have seen the development of social media, a large disparity of the rich and poor, degradation of the environment, and the relapse of plagues or the viruses. So it is a general feeling that human beings are no longer in a good control of the whole world. Non-conventional security issues are not referring to those security threats among countries themselves, but actually a threat to the whole international society. And it touches upon the survival and development of human beings. And also, it's about the politics, economic development, and social progress of all countries. And all these issues are at the same time interwoven with traditional security issues. So in this globalized age, we need to address both conventional and unconventional security issues with a more collaborative perspective instead of confronting with each other using the old Cold War mentality and zero-sum game, because all these are going to damage the collaboration among countries, especially big countries. If we do not change our mindset to follow the international trend, we will suffer a lot from all these conventional and unconventional security issues.
And fifth, at the institutional level, global governance has become a focus of international agenda, driving changes in international system and international order. The history of international relations has witnessed several international governance systems, which are all based on power and hegemony, and couldn't foster long-term peace and stability. The tragedy of 2 world wars allows people to recognize that widely participated multilateral system is the basic guarantee for world peace and stability. The founding of the United Nations gave rise to a rules-based and a multilateral world order. With the deep development of globalization, the old international rules system lags behind international balance of power, international security, nature, as well as interdependence, among other changes of the times, and struggle to deal with global challenges or effectively manage global affairs in recent years. Faced with the urgent needs to tackle global issues and common needs of the humanity, countries across the world have taken part in issue-based global governance and related mechanisms, forging the Paris Agreement in response to climate change and the JCPOA to prevent nuclear proliferation, and also catalyzed G20, among other emerging governance mechanisms, promoting international and regional governance cooperation in finance, economy, public health, cybersecurity, and cross-border crimes, bringing benefits to original multilateral rules and mechanisms. Especially emerging economies and developing countries are taking part. As a result, the multilateral order and governance system have become more representative and have acquired greater global significance. As a result, global governance has shifted from the domination of powers to wide participation and shared and collective global governance. At the same time, international cooperation in global governance has also been affected and sabotaged by unilateralism and power politics. The policy statements to acquire priority and precedence with their own strength, and also the acts to withdraw from international organizations and agreements in the name of national interests, and the intention to address global issues through bullyism, are all based on the logic that as long as they retreat to power politics, national centralism, and extreme nationalism, global issues will be resolved naturally and automatically. This is not only a fallacy of ideas, it will also push the world back to the old crossroads. Sixth, in terms of cultural development, globalization and deglobalization are clashing, and this has become the dominant topic affecting the future of the world. In the international community with different civilizations, cultures, ethnicities, nations, religious beliefs, ideologies, and social systems, to achieve accommodation and mutual learning is a major task. The strife between the doctrines, systems, and ideologies has led to long-term schisms and group conflicts in international community. With the emergence of global issues and increasing global governance needs, collective security and sustainable development have become key concerns of the world. Globalization, global governance, and world order have become major issues for debate. How to deal with and adapt to globalized development has become a top priority for countries and international communities' exploration. There are two contrasting social and political thoughts. One is the anti-globalization and deglobalization movements in the world's leading countries, which are reflected in the international strategy, domestic international policy, and practice of some major countries. In international politics, it is manifested as power politics, national centralism, and extreme nationalism, which are resurging. In economic and social areas, emphasis is placed on home country first, national interests first, and national strength first, as well as populism, protectionism, anti-integration, anti-free trade, exclusionism, which are emerging and have forged a campaign-style, aggressive and negative force, which has become a major barrier to addressing global issues. And the other is new governance ideas and new ideas. In the globalization age, international financial crisis and COVID, among other global challenges, have exposed the failings and limitations of the old dominant system, setting political leaders and thinkers from across the world reflecting what is the right system, model, governance system, and world order for the globalization era that is more resilient to all kinds of risks and challenges. The concept of governance emerged long before modern ideological conflicts, an objective approach that goes beyond ideological and systematic differences to the relations between government and society and countries and international order is widely accepted across the world. Social governance, national governance, regional governance, and global governance ideas are expanding, with related research findings and practice coming out successively. President Xi Jinping has put forward the vision of building a community of shared future for mankind. And there are also international propositions to build a global society and creating global scholarship on international relations, establishing open, competitive, cooperative international order, and managing global commons. Calling for global governance, order resetting, and shared values in the globalization age. These new ideas and explorations are based on the overall idea as well as the insights into globalization and multipolarity, the attention to the world's overall development and global village, the commitment to basic human ethics and natural laws, the thoughts on international cooperation to address global issues, and the breaking of traditional narrow-minded, ideological and systematic competition, as well as the pursuit to trump nationalism with cosmopolitanism. These two worldviews and global views are fundamentally different in that in the globalized era, should we believe in the jungle law of zero-sum game, or do we seek cooperation and win-win based on the shared interests of humanity? This is the core question on international relations and world order. In the globalized era, we need to respect diversity and differentiality and follow the interests and value orientation shared by humanity and find solutions to global issues for international community and maintain the institutional framework essential to world order. China has the world's 1/5 of the world's population. It's a big developing country. We can achieve rapid development through reform and opening up. One of the fundamental reasons, and a key reason, is that China has recognized the world trend and has followed the trends of the times and seized development opportunities. 40 years ago, when peace and development took the place of war and revolution and became the theme and waves of the world, China bid farewell to political struggles based on class struggles and shifted the priority of its work to economic development and modernization process and pursued the basic state policy of reform and open up and actively took part in economic globalization and regional cooperation, fully made use of two resources and two markets in its transition development. It turned from a bystander in international system to participant and contributor. Today, 40 years on, China again sees the world in a major transformation unseen in a century. And through the surface of chaos and crises, we have seized the big trends of global development. We have remained strategically calm, anchored, and great vision. In the vicissitudes of international environment, we are committed to world peace and development and followed a path of peaceful development and cooperation and win-win. We do our own business, manage our own business well, with allowances for the perception of the outside world of China's rise, and appropriately handle the relations between our own development and the joint interests of human society. We have connected reform and open up in the new era and Belt and Road Initiative with international rules and global governance for development through integration with the world and the region. We follow the development trends of world multipolarity and draw our strength and development from international institutional reform and the emergence of new forces. We work with the international community and the rest of the world and do what we can to play a constructive role. We also ride the tides of democratization of international relations, abide by the principles of rule of law and sovereign equality, as well as dialogue and consultations and other international norms for international relations. We are a civilized big country, focusing on friendship and kindness to expand our circle of friends, narrow confrontation, and promote the development of new type international relations and community of shared future for mankind. We follow the trend of cultural diversity and learn humbly all the outcomes of excellent civilizations created by humanity. We embrace the common values of humanity. We respect the rights of others to choose their own development paths and do not engage in ideological export and competition. We also follow the needs of global governance in the globalization era and maintain the international system and rules based on the United Nations and abide by the principle of consultation and joint development for shared benefits. We do not seek leadership or domination. We go beyond confrontational competition and seek to resolve disputes in a peaceful way and jointly meet global challenges with the international community and jointly promote the reform of governance system and international order. In the post-COVID era, China has made new plans and deployments for our development in the next 5 to 10 years. We have started the new journey from high-speed growth to quality development. We have proposed the new development paradigm with the domestic circulation as the mainstay and domestic and international circulation reinforcing each other. We are willing to negotiate more FTAs and more efficiently achieve the connectivity between domestic and international markets, to share the resources and enhance the quality of development, to inject more development energy for the development of international community. Some say that China's strategy is not transparent and not clear. I think this is because they haven't seen China's strategic planning, which is based on scientific judgments as well as the assessment of world trends. And this can also be traced from historical logic and the pulse of the times. In the new era, China will look at the world with a world perspective. We will give equal emphasis to domestic and international development and work with the rest of the world to create opportunities through open up and resolve difficulties in development and jointly meet challenges and promote the progress and development of the times.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we have listened to Ms. Qiu Yuanping for her presentation. To me, I believe this is a world-class academic report, and she has pointed out 6 perspectives revolving around the theme of new opportunities and challenges of the globalization and the impact of the pandemic. And she mentioned the general trend of the economic globalization. Second, the challenges and problems faced by human beings have been exaggerated by this pandemic. Third, political multipolarism is a natural result of economic globalization. And fourth, and all these security issues are not only for one single particular country, but for the whole international community. And fifth, we need to shift from the old mindset to new ideas and theories instead, in order to follow the general trend. And sixth, China needs to contribute even more to the progress of human beings and globalization. To summarize, Ms. Qiu Yuanping has given us a high-quality report which is inspiring to me and also, I believe, to all of us. Thank you, Ms. Qiu Yuanping, for your report. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this session of the Keynote report. Now we have a 10 minutes break, and we're going to have the online Keynote speeches. And this session will be moderated by the President of Che Institute of Advanced Studies. And we're going to listen to Nobel laureate Professor Joseph Stiglitz, President of Columbia University, Professor Stephen Tope, President of Cambridge University, Chief Scientist Professor Wu Zunyou of China Prevention and Control of Diseases, and Director General Jerome King of International Vaccine Institute, as well as Madame Huang Ru, Academician of China Academy of Sciences and Vice President of Peking University. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.